Om Namo Narayanaya. Welcome back. Today we are starting Canto 3 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is called The Status Quo. And I have no idea what that means. I have no idea what this book is about. It's like 33 or so chapters. It's really long. So much longer than Canto 2. That was really interesting. So I don't know what the status quo means. So if you're just joining me, it was my 2022 New Year's resolution to read the Srimad Bhagavatam and other great texts of Hinduism, because I'm Hindu. I believe in Krishna and Shiva, and this is my religion. And I felt weird not reading one of the key texts of the religion. It's one thing, not to read the Bhagavad Gita, because it's so short. I don't think you have an excuse. Srimad Bhagavatam, though, I think a lot of us may not read, or we may own one of, Srila Prabhupada's books and read one of them, because it's so long, and we come up with all these excuses, and everyone talks about it, so you hear about the Srimad Bhagavatam over and over and over again. So you kind of feel that it's great. You don't feel obligated to read it. It's kind of what I was beginning to feel, but I'm like, no, that's wrong. You should read this. Kind of like a Christian needs to read the Bible. A Muslim needs to read the Quran. Now, I don't know, do Buddhists read, the Dharmapada? They probably should. I don't know. But I felt I needed to read this for myself to grow spiritually. And I also love history. Also, I really have discovered that this is kind of changing me. Reading this book is changing me on some level. I've really enjoyed reading the first two cantos. And I hopefully would think it's changing me in good ways. Also, I'm reading this to honor the Lord. This is, for me, a form of puja. This is honoring God. This is honoring the Word of God. This is taking it into me. This is sharing the Word of God. So there's just so many reasons why I'm making these videos. As for recording them, actually recording them is kind of what's kept me on target with this commitment, because this is not the easiest read. This is kind of tough, and by making these videos, it's kind of created a commitment. Like, I gotta get up, I gotta do a video. I can't just sit on the side and read. So if you're watching, great. If you're not watching, this channel's not monetized. It's not about that. It's really just about me growing with you in my living room, in my kitchen, and we grow together. Maybe you want to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, so maybe you don't have time. Maybe you don't like to read. Maybe it's just not fun. I got it. This is not easy. So you can join me for a few minutes, and we'll do this together. I'll do it with you. So that's kind of been my view. It's all these different things. Me wanting to read, but maybe you want to read, and we could just do this together and share. So that's kind of it. Excuse me, all these little ideas coming together, and here we are in Canto 3. This is not a book on tape. That's not what I'm doing. This is reading, and then I say a few words to open the door for discussion. This is about learning together, okay? If you want to get this on tape, find someone with a better voice than mine, who's not coughing. So here we go. Also, comment, question, and all that good stuff below. I do read everything, and Sukadeva Goswami said, after renouncing his prosperous home and entering the forest, King Vidura, the great devotee, asked this question of his grace, Maitreya Rishi. What else is there to say about the residential house of the Pandavas? Sri Krishna, the Lord of everything, acted as your minister. He used to enter that house as if it were his own, and he did not take any care of Duryodhana's house. The king asked Sukadeva Goswami, where and when did the meeting and discussion take place between Saint Vidura and his grace Maitreya Muni? Kindly oblige, my lord, and describe this to us. Saint Vidura was a great and pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his questions to his grace Rishi Maitreya must have been very purposeful, on the highest level, and approved by learned circles. Sri Suta Goswami replied, the great sage, Sukadeva Goswami, was highly experienced and was pleased with the king. Thus being questioned by the king, he said to him, please hear the topics absolutely and attentively. King Dhritarashtra became blind after the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons, and thus he set fire to the lacquer house to burn his fatherless nephews, the Pandavas. The king did not forbid his son, Dursasana's abominable action of grabbing the hair of Draupadi, the wife of the godly king Yudhishthira, even though her tears washed the red dust on her breast. Yudhishthira, who was born without any enemy, was unfairly defeated in gambling, but because he had taken the vow of truthfulness, he went off to the forest. When he came back in due course and begged the return of his rightful share of the kingdom, he was refused by Dhritarashtra, who was overwhelmed by illusion. Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world, and although his words were heard by some as pure nectar, it was not so for others, who were completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. The king did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously. When Vidura was invited by his elder brother for consultation, he entered the house and gave instructions which were exactly to the point. His advice is well known, and the instructions by Vidura are approved by expert ministers of state. Vidura said, "You must now return the legitimate share to Yudhishthira, who has no enemies, and who has been forbearing through untold sufferings due to your offenses. He is waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is revengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him. Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, has accepted the sons of Pritha as his kinsmen, and all the kings of the world are with Sri Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family members, the kings and the princes of the Yadu dynasty, who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers, and he is their lord. You are maintaining offense personified as Duryodhana as your fallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna, and because you are thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family." While speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhana, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhana was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle Shakuni, who asked him to come here. "The son of a kept mistress. He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath." Thus being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the eternal energy to be supreme. By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapura, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimages, which are the Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a high order of pious life, he traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. He began to travel alone, thinking only of Krishna, through various holy places like Ayodhya and Dvaraka and Mathura. He traveled where the grove, hill, orchard, river, and lake are all pure and sinless, and where the forms of the unlimited decorate the temples. Thus he performed the pilgrim's progress. While so traversing the earth, he simply performed duties to please the Supreme Lord Hari. His occupation was pure and independent. He was constantly sanctified by taking his bath in holy places, although he was in the dress of a mendicant and had no hairdressing nor a bed on which to lie. Thus he was always unseen by various relatives. Thus, when he was in the land of Bharatavarsa, traveling to all the places of pilgrimage, he visited Prabhasakhetra. At that time, Maharaja Yudhishthira was the emperor, and held the world under one military strength and one flag. At the place of pilgrimage, at Prabhasa, it came to his knowledge that all his relatives had died due to violent passion, just as the entire forest burns due to a fire produced by the friction of bamboos. After this he proceeded west, where the river Sarasvati flows. On the bank of the river Sarasvati there is 11 places of pilgrimage: Trita, Ushana, Manu, Prithu, Agni, Asti, Vayu, Sadasa, Go, Guha, and Sradeva. Vidura visited all of them and duly performed rituals. There were also many other temples of various forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, established by great sages and demigods. These temples were marked with the chief emblems of the Lord, and they reminded one always of the original personality of Godhead. Thereafter, he passed through very wealthy provinces like Sarat, Saravira, and Matsya, and through western India. At last he reached the bank of the Yamuna, where he happened to meet Uddhava, the great devotee of Lord Krishna. Due to his great love and feeling, Vidura embraced Uddhava, who was a constant companion of Lord Krishna and formerly a great student of Brihaspati. Vidura then asked him for news of the family of Lord Krishna. Please tell me whether the original personalities of Godhead, who incarnated themselves at the request of Brahma, and who have increased the prosperity of the world by elevating everyone, are doing well in the house of Shurasena. Please tell me whether the best friend of the Kuras, our brother-in-law, Vasudeva, is doing well. He is very munificent. He is like a father to his sisters, and he is always pleasing to his wives. Oh, Uddhavana, I am tired, but please tell me, how is Pradyumna, the commander-in-chief of the Yadus, who was Cupid in a former life? Rukmini bore him as her son from Lord Krishna by the grace of the Brahmanas whom she pleased. Oh, my friend, I so wish to know, and I have travelled so far to know, whether Ugrasena, the king of the Satvatas, Vrishnis, Bhojas, Darsharhas, is now doing well. He went far away from his kingdom too, leaving aside all hopes of his royal throne, but Lord Krishna again installed him. Oh, gentle one, does Samba fare well? He exactly resembles the son of Lord Vishnu. In a previous birth he was born as Kartikeya in the womb of his wife of Lord Shiva, and now he has been born in the womb of Jambavati, the most enriched wife of Krishna. Oh, Uddhava, does Yuyudhana fare well? He learned the intricacies of the military art from Arjuna, and attained the transcendental destination which is very difficult to reach, even for the great renouncers. Please tell me whether Arkrura, the son of Svabhaka, is doing well. He is a faultless soul surrendered to the Lord. He once lost his mental equilibrium due to his ecstasy of transcendental love and fell down on the dust of a road which was marked with the footprints of the Lord. As the Vedas are the reservoir of sacrificial purposes, so the daughter of King Devaka Bhoja conceived the Supreme Personality of Godhead in her womb, as did the mother of the demigod. Is she doing well? May I inquire whether Aniruddha is doing well? He is the fulfiller of all desires of the pure devotees, and has been considered from yore to be the cause of the Rig Veda, the creator of the mind, and the fourth plenary expansion of Lord Vishnu. Oh, sober one. Others, so many others, who accept Sri Krishna as the soul of the self, and thus follow his path without deviation, please tell me, are they well? I so wish to know. Also, let me inquire whether Maharaja Yudhishthira is now maintaining the kingdom according to religious principles and respect for the path of religion. Formerly, Duryodhana was burning with envy because Yudhishthira was being protected by the arms of Krishna and Arjuna as if they were his own arms. Please tell me whether the unconquerable Bhima, who is like a cobra, has received his long-cherished anger upon the sinners. The field of battle could not tolerate even the wonderful playing of his club when he stepped on the path. Please tell me whether Arjuna, whose bow bears the name Gandiva, and who is always famous among the chariot warriors for the vanquishing of his enemies, is doing well. He once satisfied Lord Shiva by covering him with arrows, and when Shiva came as an unidentified false hunter. Are the twin brothers who protected by their brothers doing well? Just as the eye is always protected by the eyelid, they are protected by the sons of Pitta, who snatched back their rightful kingdom from the hands of their enemy, Duryodhana, just as Garuda snatched nectar from the mouth of Indra, the thunderbolt carrier? Oh, my lord, is Pritha still living? She lived only for the sake of her fatherless children, otherwise it was impossible for her to live without King Pandu, who was the greatest commander, and who alone conquered the 4 directions simply with the help of a second bow. Gentle one, I simply lament for him. Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death, by him I was driven out of my own house. Although I am a sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons, I am not astonished at this, truthfully, having traveled over the world without being seen by others. The activities of Lord Vishnu, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others, but I know of his greatness by his grace, and thus I am actually happy in all respects. Despite his being the Lord and being always willing to relieve the distress of sufferers, Lord Krishna refrained from killing the Kurus. Although they committed all sorts of sins, and although he saw other kings constantly agitating the earth by their strong military movements, carried out under the dictation of 3 kinds of false pride, the appearance of the Lord is manifested for the annihilation of the upstarts. His activities are transcendental, and are enacted for the understanding of all persons. Otherwise, since the Lord is transcendental to all material modes, what purpose could he serve by coming to earth? My friend, I have walked across the world, and have chanted the glories of the world, of the Lord, who is meant to be glorified in the places of pilgrimage. He is unborn, and yet he appears by his causeless mercy upon the surrendered rulers of all parts of the universe. Only for their interest did he appear in the family of his unalloyed devotees, of the Yadus. Thus ends chapter 1. I had a bit of a tough time reading that, if you couldn't tell. I forgot what voice I used, my apologies. But I figured I was doing his tired across the world voice. But also, the way this is written, it's not always clear sometimes who's talking and who's not. I sometimes wonder about the authorship of this, or if it's been edited, or if it's just the translation. It's a tough read sometimes. Anyways, that sets the stage for the rest of the canto. I don't know where we're going. I don't know what status quo means. These questions asked by King Vidura is setting up a whole new story before us, and this story intertwines with previous stories. It's all this intertwining. I often say you need a spreadsheet to understand this book. You have to chart out all this stuff. Anyways, that gets us started on Canto 3, and next video we'll hit Chapter 2. So thank you for watching. Anything you want down below, you know how YouTube goes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.